all right, isn't it? Being described as a dangerous man, I think, by politicians that the majority of the country despise. I think I'll take that as a win. It came about. There was a man called Peter Brown, an older man, campaigner. He's in his 80s. He's a campaigner. He went to see the local MP, a woman called Debbie Abrahams, to complain about the stuff I'd been releasing online, which is the grooming gangs. And she shared with him that I was a dangerous man. Now, the reason she called me a dangerous man was in the months preceding that, she tried to have me maliciously arrested, prosecuted. She doctored some information online, took it to the police. And of course, I keep all the receipts. And I pulled all the stuff out. I said, well, actually, she said, I said this and I said this. Have you seen the 4 exchanges in the middle? And the police officer's face went bright red. And I said, well, are you going to arrest her? And like, no, apparently that's what they do. That's what apparently everyone does. They doctor evidence when they take it to the police. And the recusants I came across, so for instance, Guy Fawkes would have been a recusant. So the recusants were those who stood up to injustice and believed in their faith and their beliefs and the morals and the values, despite knowing that the machinery of the state would come after them. They didn't surrender to who they were and what they did, and that's where the word comes from. I had this conversation at the time with my mother, and my mother hit me. So she's of that generation of where the royal family meant everything to them. So I went along and I got the medal, and I remember my mum was sat on the front row, and in Parliament, in Buckingham Palace, everything's lined up in a certain way, measured, and she'd grabbed the chair and pulled it 4 feet further forward. So, you know, she's passed now, and it was the proudest moment, and she'd put up with so much. She'd put up with so much of a son who didn't conform anyway, and it was the least I could have done for her. But in terms of the honour system and our entire political system, come on, it's a mess. It's a complete mess. I tell the people of my town, we've got to be the change we want to see in the world. And then I look at myself and look at that cesspit, and I think, who in their right mind would want to enter that cesspit? So I think it's very clear to me, you can't go in on your own. You've got to go in with a team of you. You've got to go in with a group of you, and you've got to be the change as an organised resistance rather than just one person speaking out. Vermin. He's the worst Prime Minister I've ever come across in my life. He's definitely the worst Prime Minister I've ever come across in my life. And he's only a few months in. I think he's on his journey, and I think I've never met the man. I look at him, I see the way he's demonised, I see a complex character there, and I think what he does next, and I genuinely believe this, what he does next when he comes out of prison will help shape the future of our country. I look at the guys I worked with who came out of places like Robben Island in South Africa, and where they were, the Maze prison, and where they were and what they became. And I genuinely hope he becomes something that helps all of us. You know, that's my hope for him, because he's got people he can take with him on the journey. Somewhere between opportunist and he's the most effective politician in my adult life, I think. Absolutely. How we manoeuvred to where we got Brexit and all the rest of it. Farage, no, without Farage, it would never have got there. And I look at him, and I don't buy into all of Reform's policies. I'm not a Reform member or anything like that, but at least he's standing up for something. Oh, she's an angel. The woman is so remarkable. I've never met Maggie. I've only interacted with her online and stuff like that, and her and I have spoken to each other offline, but I've never met the woman. But you know, if the honour system had any legitimacy, that woman would be a Dane. Or the criminal, 100% criminal. The leader of the Oldham Council hangs off the arm of a convicted heroin dealing getaway driver of a cop killer. I mean, it's not even a joke. It's not a joke, is it? That's the truth. Yeah, and she's the chair of the National Constitutional Committee of the Labour Party. It's just outrageous. You couldn't make this up. It's outrageous. And please go and have a look at the video of her blown up car, because they tried to frame me for blowing up her car. Go and have a look at that. If anyone's got any doubt, go and have a look at the video. Well, I've been repeatedly called far right, a racist far right. What is far right now? You know, is caring about children far right? I don't care. You know, even if I was, I wouldn't care, because I know what I'm standing for. And the story I'll give you, in the context of that, the first time I saw a swastika was on the front door of my house. It wasn't a textbook, it was the front door of my house. And I was 4 years old and I was marched off to go to school. And I came home at lunchtime and my dad, a distinguished man who always wore a jacket and a tie and a shirt, you know, that generation, sleeves rolled up, and he was scrubbing it off. And the white man who lived opposite was helping him scrub it off. You know, so I'm not having, it's why I refuse to abandon working class white communities, because I'm not having that. There's so much good in all communities. I'm not having them labelled that way. Oh, I'm on X, reticent_Raja, and the best place to find me is my webpage, redwallandtherabble.co.uk.